Fabio, an individual with strong family ties to defendants convicted in connection with the Pizza Connection narcotics distribution case of the 1980s. Out of a coffee shop in the Ridgewood section of Queens, who have engaged in numerous armed robberies and other violent crimes. And it's a shame I'm not the man I used
to be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 52 Topics with Frank Fiordolino. This is Ridgewood, A True Story. Season 2, Episode 5, A New Low. So in Episode 4, Baldo's coming around. He's getting into the swing of things at Janini Cafe. Ralph Schuler's being Ralph Schuler. We spoke about Joe O'Kane. Vito's hanging around a little more. What's going on, Frank?
Well, this takes place in about October 91. And this is my second year at the Baccarat game. I get a call from my uncle. I'm pretty used to the routine, go around the coffee shops, let him know. You'll go with either Mike or Jesse James, who works at the game himself, and around my uncle at the time. And also my brother's like partner, in whatever they do. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So basically, we go to the coffee shop and go, look, the game's going to start, and you guys need to close. But basically, when like last time I explained, when we walked in there, they already knew, because these are some of the places I didn't even go to anyway. We were cool about it, and that was it. Later on, people got a little bit more brave about it. People own these places, but that's yet to come, and those are going to be pretty interesting. So around October, the game starts, and it's the same thing. You have your Banana guys, you have your Gambino guys, you have my uncle come there. He comes there in the opening, and he doesn't never stay the whole night. And then on the Gambino side, you got Uncle Mike, who's Cefalu, Uncle Mike. So we discussed them too. They come, they open up the game starts, and it's as usual. It just seemed like it wasn't as powerful as it was the year before. It was pretty good. It wasn't like, during the Pizza Connection days, but it had a good ring to it. It just seemed it was back, but not really anything spectacular. So at that point, it also looked like that Baldo was starting to be reluctant about having it in his place. For one reason, it was on Fresh Pond Road, but for one reason, it was that he had a really nice place, and then he was afraid of the cops coming in there and just fucking everything up. So that was a main component that year, the main about the game itself. Baldo's guy, you would see him more. Baldo, you weren't seeing as much yet. And even when you seen him, like I said, I believe was still on parole. His buddy would come around a lot. Sal Montano was someone who grew up with my brother Phil, who eventually really took my brother Phil's position. And because my uncle Cheech gave my brother Phil a whole bunch of fucking lies about what he was gonna do for him and what he was gonna do and that. And he kind of took my brother away from Baldo, which they were really close. I don't know how close they were after, but this was like older people stuff. What I mean by that is we had our own cliques, they had their own cliques. So you know, as much as I knew, as much as anybody else knew in regards to their relationship, talking about Baldo and my brother Phil. But Sal was his guy at the time. He metamorphosed into a real fucking douchebag. I mean, he used to come in with a cigar, sit down, look around like he had some fucking always had his hair done. You know, he had his chick on his side. Obviously, that's what ends up having. Ends up having a fucking nervous breakdown. But he was a little bit of douchey at that time. So man, I use that word douchey. Fucking cut that one out. Fucking. But
What
you know,
is Montagna's origin story?
he's not well, we're all paisans with Castellamariz. That's why he runs the place. He runs up Caesar's place, which is Baldo took over on 13th Avenue in Dyka Heights, and Sal was the guy who ran that place for Baldo. So they had a real good relationship, especially 3 years while Baldo was in jail. And Sal would always talk about the kids that hung out in Janini's. He always liked Paul. Sal had something with Paul, but I think they had more higher ambitions for him. But I think they also were like his gambling kind of was a kind of red flag, but not his balls. You understand what I'm saying? Because you need that in that kind of life. But they did get along. That clique, they did get along to some degree. What else was there? I'm trying to think what else during that time. Who else was close to them? Anthony, not yet to beat her, and Anthony was basically Paul's guy, and it seemed that Anthony was crazy and fucking fearless stuff that he ever did. He always had a fly under Paul's flag. It seemed like when Paul told him to jump, he jumped. When Paul told him to do something, it was always like, and if he did talk to somebody else, Paul had the gift of getting it out of Anthony, even when Anthony was starting to get close to Vito. And eventually Vito Guzzo gets close to Anthony as well. But when they get close, it's a different dynamic. Vito kind of becomes Anthony's Paul because Paul ain't around. And we find out why Paul ain't around after. But that's what happens. And like for an example, Fabio and Vito, they did things together, and we're gonna find out they did a lot of things together. But Fabio is more sneaky and eventually would have made a move or sold Vito out, where Anthony on the streets would, and they both do eventually, but they do it legally, okay? But criminally, I don't think Anthony would have, but Fabio definitely, and I know about that too, and we'll get to that. But this is what was going on. They were starting to hang out, and this crew was starting to form, this clique. I'm working the game. They're doing stuff, and I'll get to Fabio now, but what am I doing at the time? I'm hanging out with Joe Grimaldi. I started hanging out with him. Joe's a good kid. His father's Vito Grimaldi. We talked about him. He's from Long Island. He starts hanging out. We go to the clubs. And at this point, I probably hung out with him for about a year and a half. We met at Bobby's club, Bobby Wizziak's. And I believe that his dad's machines possibly were at Bobby Wizziak's place, or one or the other. I don't remember, but they had some kind of connection that I didn't know how. But that's how I met Joe. Obviously, I knew his father almost all my life because he had the bakery right down the street from where I lived. And of course, I used to see him back in the day at Tony Giordano's house in an events. But me and Joe stopped getting, we have a good bond. We stopped becoming cool with each other. And now and then I go meet up with him at his father's place. Well, not by name. It's on Cypress Avenue, this place. And it's called Cypress Cafe. I think it was Cypress Cafe. And the guy who runs that cafe is the guy that we keep running in that clip, on that Galante clip.
No, he stopped every day for coffee.
He stopped in here every day for coffee.
He don't know nothing. It's like this, I can talk. If you catch me later, I do everything, another half an hour, 1 hour. I told you everything you want. Okay. Right now.
Yeah. The what is that club? He's my uncle or
That's
whatever.
my uncle. Right. That's Frank Catania. His last name is not Catania. It's Catania because where he's from. He's
Right.
Calani. I know his name, but it's not important because I knew his son too. And there was a place there, and they had like a couple of Joker poker machines that used. It was a good spot. They did really well. So there was a lot of Castellanese there that would hang out. People that grew up with my fathers, my brothers, my uncles. So it was always a place that I liked to hang out. It was pretty comfortable, And it was in Lower Ridge with Cypress Avenue. And right next door, there was a video store that also had machines, and they came in the form of Vito as well, because Vito Grimaldi, because it was right across the street from his place. And there was a Yugoslavian kid who was a car thief, and we will talk about him, Sasha. Sasha was Popov, his last name. Sasha owned this video store, and good, really, really sharp kid. He was a sharp kid. He dated one of my uncle's secretaries, my uncle Cheech's secretaries at the vending place. And everybody, you've seen him. The kid had a good demeanor about him, but he was also a fucking master thief, master car thief. And he had a whole bunch of Serbians around him that stole with him. So we get to him. I kind of get close to him. We kind of get we bump heads, but at the same time, looking back, it's all those situations were just fucking funny. I come to think about it, but he was a good guy. Now their medium guy, their guy to mediate between Vito Grimaldi, because they really didn't talk to Vito much other than hi and goodbye. Was they talked to Joe, but not Vito. Joe Grimaldi was Joe Galante. Who's Joe Galante? Joe Galante was Vito's right hand man. At the time I met Joe, Joe had a son, Joe Jr. I get friendly with him. So this is a clique that forming with me. Okay. While this other clique is forming with my friends I grew up with. Do you follow what I'm saying when we talk about all these Janini?
Yeah. Now these Galantes, are they like direct relation to Carmen, or is it like cousin, brothers,
They're,
uncles,
they're,
nephew, or
they're
something?
not direct, but they're definitely related. They're for other Castellamedis that are
Right,
related.
right, right. So somewhere in that line, they're related somehow. Okay. And I want to get before we continue though, I want to get back to Joe Grimaldi because, and I know you're gonna talk about him more, but you said Long Island. So are you saying he grew up on Long Island, or he was just currently living in Long Island in his teen years?
He grew up in Glen Cove, but he used to come down because his father had a bakery back here. So he met a
Okay.
lot of people. See, I think Joe takes the rap sometimes from a lot of people that he did grow up in Long Island. But at the end of the day, he was definitely an able guy. Okay, was just
Right.
to himself. He kept to himself. He had to be one of those guys that you had to put him in a bad situation. And he wasn't no Paul Canarella. He wasn't no my cousin Phil.
Right.
Everybody thinks because these guys had money. But Joe was different. I don't know if he's ever done any work. I don't know if he ever had to do any work, but I know if he had to, I would definitely back then. I definitely could have relied on him, and we could have relied on each other. Actually, that's how that went down back then. But
Yeah, it's
you know,
interesting because, like, I mean, listen, anyone that knows the geography here, Glen Cove, it's not like deep into Long Island. It's really not that far from the Queens border. But in normal circumstances, like you might have a wise guy and they'll move out to Long Island and hopefully their kid gets into some other shit, but some legit stuff. But because he has this very notable business, Grimaldi Bakery, I mean, it keeps his child within that neighborhood, within that sphere of guys like you. It's interesting.
well, because he knows my family. There's more to it than that. It wasn't like who's his fucking kid. It was more like I grew up with the uncles, and Vito did. He knew about my uncles, knew my cousins. Vito might as well have been family. That's another thing. We might as well have been family. So you could
Okay,
put
I
that.
get it. Yep.
It wasn't like here, go out with this one and this that. It probably was at the end. I hope they don't get in trouble. But
Yeah.
Joe had his wings. He had to fly on his own. He went to college, wasn't for him. He went to a good college, extremely smart, but extremely, he could do it. He could do it. He was no fucking slouch by no means, and you know, and 100%, not at all. You know what I mean? So we had this little clique going ourselves. Eventually, the clique, we get my friend Nat in there, you know, and he's somebody I grew up with as well. He's around the Conti clique with Enzo Polaro and John DeLeo and Joe DeLeo, but they start just, you know, both of them were bad gamblers, Enzo and John, and then, you know, money was missing. They start fighting, and there's this cord between John and Enzo, and Joe kind of parts with with Enzo's side, not his uncle, because he was like, you know, he felt that whatever was going on, his uncle was wrong, and his uncle was pretty kind of upset about it, and always kind of got Nat's here. Can you believe this is going on? There, and Nat was kind of feeling a little bit sick of that situation. He was like, you know what, fuck. I mean, listen. I might as well just go fucking back and work and legitimately, and I fucking listen to these guys all day. So it kind of like, just by default, we were hanging out. We were doing the soccer games, hanging out, we were catching a movie, just doing the nightclubs, and knowing each other from high school. Me and that were close. I eventually kind of regretted to started taking them around to Vito and them, but I don't know. Do I regret it? I can. It's hard for me to figure out how what that situation came out of it. But so that's the clique that's growing. And now let's go back to Fabio. Fabio's getting good graces. He's going doing the Tuesday club thing. They kind of like him, what he has to bring. He presents himself well because he has very, very good pedigree. And that's what he's doing, you know what I mean? But club wise, he wants to open up a club. He wants to have his friends there, and he does have a pretty good clique of friends. His friends are John Clemenza, Joe Shalara, who he ends up marrying his sister, and my cousin marries the other sister, who's Catalano's nephew. We talk about that, and then there's a group of Middle Village kids that Vito Guzzo also knew because he opened up an arcade and made these kids run it at one time. So when he ran these kids all got together. The arcade went under, you know, and Fabio gets this club. So the good thing, you see how much clout Fabio had, even though the Baccarat was going, they were allowed to stay open. And the reason for that was they were younger, and also because who he was and who he was behind. So they were giving him what we call in that life, they were starting to make him. You understand?
Yeah, yeah. Mold
But
them, make
when the
them.
whole cliques comes together, he gets a whole bunch of Fabio gets a whole bunch of they wanted to turn it into an arcade. They get with this guy and they get like, I don't know, 8 machines in the place, 8 vending machines. Stuff that's like top notch at the time. So when they get those machines, they start um doing okay for a while, but it's not the money he wants. He also has blackjack games there, and he has Paulie letting out money at the game, his uncle, because for some reason Paulie always comes in the picture. Yeah, he doesn't get along with the nephew Joe Conti, but that's Paul Bagusa is Fabio's uncle, and Fabio was always kind of like always walked on eggshells with Paul, but Paul had that temper. At the end of the day, he was like he felt that you ain't nothing without me. He had that kind of mentality with these kids. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he had them shook. So that's for right reason. He was fucking half nuts. He went out with Baldo one night. They went out to a club, okay? And I don't know, Paul didn't like somebody. So this is Baldo that's like a legend at this time in our neighborhood. And he starts getting it into it with him. And he has Baldo like pulling him back, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He goes, he just wants to go after this guy. And nobody would have to fucking hold him back. And then he at one time he starts saying, you know what, I can't even go out with these fucking kids because this fucking kid is out of his mind, you know? So you get starting to see where everything goes, you see? His club is there,
Yeah.
he's giving money, and the club starts not doing too good, or not making the money Fabio didn't have. And Fabio was not a gambler at all. And later on, like a year before he gets locked up, or a year and a half before he gets whatever happens to him, he starts getting an addiction for video poker, which was unheard of. This kid wouldn't even take out $10 of his play. He was real shrewd and smart with his money. So you could see why the gangsters liked him. But at one point, this wasn't because of that. He wasn't making as much as he was. And there was a lot in making, like selling these machines and just driving around and having a club. So they all start speculating what we could do. Vito has these kids. That doing whatever they want to do. I mean, one night I was at the Baccarat game and I'm looking, I see a fucking van that they were driving around with. All of a sudden, I see a couple of kids go through the back and run out of the place with a bunch of fucking dollies and Joker poker machines. And I couldn't make the kids out, but I could body wise because they were wearing something. And I found out that they went in there, put guns on the freaking bartenders and a couple of customers that were there, and they robbed the joint. You understand? It's like a 1 a.m.
Jeez.
And that's what they were starting to do. So they were starting to use these middle village kids doing that. So they had Peter Caffrey, they had Brian Lindemann, they had the kid Joe Corrado. They were getting their feet wet at the time. So this was a lot of the stuff that was going on. And this is the time where they're getting into bigger things, new lows, if you would, the title of this show, right? They start thinking, hey, wait, we got something good. Tabita's your man, he's always listening. He's not really involved in a lot of the robberies, but he's a lot of the other stuff just in case we have to go do something, give somebody a beating, burn something down. More destructive, you know what I'm saying?
More brazen.
And Paul was like, yeah, maybe I'm fucking playing the game today. He would go get involved, but if he was in the middle of something, he goes, you guys got this. And they did. And their clique was getting bigger. It was maybe like 10, 12 to 14 at one time, just doing something. Now they run into these two kids. Now I'll give you the rundown, these two kids, John Russi and Steve Ignazzi. John Russi's a kid I went to high school with. And this is probably, out of everybody who gets killed, probably the saddest story. And the saddest story is because basically he was a kid who always tried to fit in. He was a kid from Glendale, a blonde-headed kid. I think he had braces at the time, and he was older. He was maybe 2 years older than me when I met him, and always telling little tiny jokes. And hey, he was kind of like Rob Iovani in a way. They dressed a lot older than they actually were, and tried to act a lot older, but with quirky jokes and like dad jokes. And he was a harmless guy. Didn't think nothing of him. Didn't always, I had a lot of these kids from that neighborhood that were just good kids. Elio even, all right. But it was crazy. I see him a couple of years after, and he's hanging out with the Steve Pignazzi guy, which I also heard was a pretty good guy. But he had the Corvette. He was more the Guido type, with the Sergio Tacchini, where John was always, hey, I seen John at it was still Pals or fucking Goldfingers. I remember that was like the last time I seen him. Don't hold me to that. It could have been Goldfingers. And I seen him there, and he had money, and he was just different, something different about him. Not disrespectful, but just more like I made it type, or I'm doing good. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And the word, I started asking around because people, our age are like nosy. What the fuck's this guy up to? Hey, Frankie, how you doing? What's going on? You want a drink? Talking around? Yeah, sure. And just being himself. And the sad thing about it is, he was an only child, I believe. And his dad had him his dad and his mom had him very, very late. That his mom passed away, and his dad took care of him and tried to shelter him from getting in trouble, trying to do the best for him, worked hard so he could do for his kid. So out of everybody that gets killed within the new lows I'm going to start talking about, stuff that I was involved in, he's the one that not the only one, but the one I always really felt something for, and just the way it happened to him. Steve Pignazzi, I heard he was a good kid too. I remember there was a kid from his neighborhood, Jingal, who eventually gets involved in the shooting of Cookie Dirt. So we talk about that too. And he was always friendly with us and always cool with us. And when those kids got killed, he was always like hello and goodbye. Like anybody, we knew it was the kids from there, but we didn't know which ones were involved on it. And he was always like distant from us to say hi. So he was in the pot business. I found out, I asked around. He was doing what, that's why maybe he was acting like a little bit. He was this new up and coming, but he wasn't doing it in a malicious way. And they had some friends in the Colombo family, and that was like where it went bad for them because that's how they connected with Vito, and Vito made a connection to let's make a deal. He wanted to make a deal with these guys to buy what they got. He knew they were holding on to a big stash. He didn't know where the stash was, but they were going to meet up in Fabio's new club. I think by then, no, he didn't sell the machines yet. Fabio didn't, because I'll explain to you why. But they were going to meet at Fabio's club on Metropolitan and Elliott, and they were going to have a drug transaction. And they were going to, that's Steve was in him, John was with him. Vito was there, Anthony was there, Fabio was there, and so was this kid Rick that ended up coming there. And we talk about Anthony Tony S is going to be there eventually. But that's how it goes down. So we'll talk about that meeting on our next episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 5 of season 2, Ridgewood, A True Story. A new low.
And this box is getting smaller. I'm trying to get out. How did I get so far from where I was? When did I decide to lose my way? Who have I become? I got a new low. All 52 cards in a row. I see now that I won't let go. No, I won't let go. Well, who am I? A cold shoulder left to cry. You feel bad, well, so do I. Yeah, so do I. I've been right, I've been left, I've been wrong, I've been left behind.